Hey, what is going on, guys? We've got a really exciting omnibus today, and that is one that I've wanted for a long time. It's the What If Omnibus Volume 1. So, without further ado, let's hop right into the book. Okay, and there were a few covers for this omnibus, but as you can see, I went with the What If Jane Foster Became Thor cover, and that's because I think this was the coolest one, and also it had the best spine, in my opinion, which we'll take a look at in a second. Okay, and here is the back of the book, Dawn of the Marvel Multiverse. You can see how they're really capitalizing off of multiverse stuff right now, because that's what we're about to be getting, and are getting currently in the MCU. And then, it's just the standard covers of what's inside the book in the back here. Okay, don't think I forgot about you, my spine lovers. I am one myself, so here's the spine. It's got Uatu there looking as stoic as ever, and it's got the What If, the original series, Volume 1. Volume 2 is coming later this year. Here is the book without its dust jacket. The cover features the Fantastic Five from the What If Spider-Man Joined the Fantastic Four. The back is just the same as my cover, the Jane Foster Thor. So this omnibus collects the 1977 What If series, issue 1 through 15, and then 17 through 22. Pretty simple. But what is the What If series and why should you care? Well, this is an anthology series that takes a look at the infinite universes that exist, and we see how things change if they don't go quite the way they went in Marvel continuity as we know it. Basically, the creators getting to do whatever they want, and they get to go wild in their little sandbox universe, and it's different each issue. So the story we start this omnibus off with is What If Spider-Man Joined the Fantastic Four? As those who've read the classic Spider-Man issues know, and as our host, The Watcher, recaps for us, Spider-Man approached the Fantastic Four in his first series issue and wanted to join them for some cash, but they said no. This is the story that would have played out if they said yes. And it's pretty good. They fight a lot of Spider-Man villains, and the big change is sort of that Sue Storm is pushed further away from the team, and, eventually that leads her to choose Namor over Reed Richards, and she leaves him to live in the ocean. And then it ends, and we're on to the next, which is What If Hulk Had the Intelligence of Bruce Banner? And this is funny, and some of these other what ifs are funny, because yes, a lot of these things have happened in the main Marvel continuity now. Hulk has had that level of intelligence numerous times throughout his history, but this sort of affects the chaos that ensued at his origin. Smart Hulk is able to circumvent that a bit. And this one goes places more wild than you would have think it would with the title. I mean, it's simple in theory, Hulk is smart, but it leads down this butterfly effect where eventually to stop Galactus, Reed, Banner, and Professor Xavier all combine their minds and bodies to fend off Galactus. And there are also consequences to this one that involve Ben Grimm and his Thing transformation as well. I mean, I like this one a lot despite not being too big of a Hulk fan. And then we have What If the Avengers Had Never Been? I wonder if this one had any influence on that third What If episode where the Avengers are all murdered before they get their chance to assemble. I don't know. But in this one, basically everyone just quits before they really have a chance to form. And it ends up also going in a different direction that you might have thought it would. Instead of something, super cataclysmic happening because the Avengers didn't form, it's really just Iron Man having to face off against Namor and Hulk alone. Well, not quite alone because, Rick Jones, Giant Man, and Wasp do come to help eventually. Thor, I guess, he was kind of moseyed on out of this story quickly. I guess he had a doctor's appointment or something. But the others actually don these versions of the Iron Man suit. So it's like 4 Iron Men versus Hulk and Namor, and there are also drastic consequences to this one. So you probably now have a good sense of what the What If series is, if you didn't already. I do wish they were a little more inventive in some of the plot lines and in some of their butterfly effects. The ones that did that well were always my favorite ones, but they're all pretty decent, except I didn't like this Invaders one, really, but, that's the great part of it being an anthology series. You do not need to read it in order. If you're like, hey, don't care about the Invaders, but I am curious about the one at the end where Doctor Doom becomes a good guy, another thing that's happened in main Marvel continuity, by the way, but you can just skip to that story, read it, and then jump back around to anywhere else in the omnibus you want to read. There is no consistent through line here, like maybe there is or maybe there isn't, we don't know yet, in the What If series on Disney+. No, this one just boom, read issue 14, boom, read issue 1, boom, read issue 3, whatever. So if you were interested in this one we're looking at now, which is where Captain America survives World War II, then heck yeah, read this one first. I will say it's also another decent one, but kind of lacking on that butterfly effect. It's pretty tame in comparison to some of the others, and you'd expect a man that makes as big a ripple effect as Captain America to have altered things more drastically, but Nah. He's just like the Shield captain, and then, Bucky becomes Cap, and Rick Jones, Bucky. Not super inventive. Okay, we are passing over one of my favorite ones, though, which is what if the Fantastic Four had different powers? And pretty much, Johnny Storm is like a robot dude. Reed Richards just turns into like a brain with super brain powers, like literally a brain. Sue Storm gets Reed Richards' stretchy powers, and Ben Grimm grows dragon wings. This one's super cool. It changes a lot of things because the initial change is so drastic, and it ends up in a really cool, satisfying way where Reed Richards gets stuck in Doctor Doom's body. We get some variations of the Spider-Man bite here. We see Flash get bitten in one universe, Betty Brant in another, and J. Jonah Jameson's son in the last. And kind of the big takeaway here is that not everyone can be Spider-Man. And it's almost like Peter Parker getting that responsibility is kind of an absolute point, if I'm going to be using some terminology from the show. But another big takeaway is that Peter Parker is the only one who can make a cool Spider-Man suit. Everyone else's looks so lame at best, and then super weird like Betty's at worst. I know that's not really the point, but I had to say something because they're bad. They're really bad costume designs. And then we get weird ones like this that they're kind of stupid in theory. I mean, it is, what if everyone knew that Daredevil was blind? And it's like, okay, I guess, blind superhero is something of a revelation. But it's just like, you guys could have gone anywhere with these what if stories, and you chose to do what if people knew Daredevil was blind, which seems so small and insignificant. That being said, I will say I did like this one a lot. I don't know why. It was just very enjoyable for me. And, Daredevil does end up getting his eyes fixed in this. He does an eye surgery. And he loses his other super senses because of that, because he's also exposed to radioactivity again. And he ends up just becoming district attorney. And now we're looking at the very classic, also occurring in main Marvel continuity, sense of theme here, of Jane Foster becoming Thor. Loki, Odin, Sif, everyone is really confused in this one because they're like, hey, why is Thor suddenly a woman? And Sif's like, oh man, I wanted to marry dude Thor. And then Odin's like, that's not my son, get banished. I thought I'd like it more than I did. It was pretty decent. It's better than some of the other ones we took a look at already. It does end very weirdly though, because Jane Foster ends up getting with Odin, which is weird. But okay, what if? This Marvel bullpen becoming the Fantastic Four I'm flipping through is really fun, very creative. They had a good time with it, obviously. Check it out, experience it for yourself. It's one of the better ones in here. Guys, definitely consider picking this book up. Like I said, it's hit or miss with these individual stories, but overall, it's really fun. And regardless, even if it's a bad story, sometimes it's fun to see what these creators at the time thought would be a good idea, or thought would be a fun alternate idea to play around with. And, to their credit, yeah, there's going to obviously be some bad ones or ones that don't, work so well in here because they're just experimenting. They're throwing darts at the board to see what will stick. And obviously, I mean, a lot of these had a foundational influence, at least, for things that happened later in the Marvel 616 continuity. Like I said, the Jason Aaron Thor stuff with Jane Foster, or, Invincible Iron Man, or, Professor Hulk, all of that stuff. Or even, maybe there's the Dormammu, what if Doctor Strange was the disciple of Dormammu story in this? And, perhaps that had some influence on the what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hand storyline. I don't know. But still, it's like, this is a really fun book to read. We're getting volume 2, and I think it's going to be even better than this one, and then hopefully we'll get to see the second series of What If that comes out after. And that's really what I want, because that is some of the more exciting stuff, I think. So buy this book so that I can have the others. And if you don't buy it for the stories, hey, buy it for the artwork then. Because look, as I'm flipping through this, there's some really cool, really unique, very classic artwork in this omnibus that I think even, the modern comic book fan or any comic book fan would enjoy just looking at. I mean, especially in this What If Doctor Strange was a disciple of Dormammu one. I mean, can we just take a moment to appreciate all the beautiful artwork that goes into any Doctor Strange story ever? Whenever I open up a Doctor Strange story, I'm just blown away by the visuals. It's amazing, and I hope they can capture that more colorfully in the movies coming up. They've done a good job so far. I'm not critiquing that in any way, but I just want it, I want them to ramp it up, because in these books, it's like, man, This looks crazy, mystical magic, and it's awesome. Oh, and I wanted to mention, you may have noticed that there is a missing issue in this. You're probably like, hey, why did they leave out issue 16? Well, if you're curious, what issue 16 was is, what if Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, had remained loyal to Fu Manchu? And the reason, as far as I know, that they left that out is because they don't actually have the rights to the character Fu Manchu anymore. And that's the reason also why we aren't getting reprints or anything of any of those Shang-Chi omnibuses that have gone up quite a lot in price. So that's the reason, they don't have the rights to use those stories, and that's why you won't see any Fu Manchu stories pop up in any omnibuses that Marvel is now printing. I'm guessing they had an exclusive license to use it at some point, and then it expired, and now they can no longer incorporate those issues into their omnibuses. All right, nothing special here at the end, just some inks, some words, some pictures, the usual stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. You all have a great day.